Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Beyond Second Cognition. I'm Beall. The topic of this discussion is conspiracy education, real Psyops. This discussion is aimed primarily at those people that hang on the YouTube channels and listen to this conspiracy stuff and all these people that claim to be awake, peddling all their conspiracy theories and ideologies. I want to point some things out to you, if you happen to be a listener, to give you some education for things to pay attention to. What you will notice with these conspiracy networks is that there's a serious crossover between conspiracy and mystical falderall. This is by design. There are three organizations on the planet: the Fabian Society, the Theosophical Society, and the Society for Psychic Research. These three organizations are part of a massive worldwide organization under the umbrella of the Lucis Trust, which was created by Alice Bailey and her Freemasonic husband, Foster Bailey. And under this Lucis Trust umbrella sits the United Nations and almost 31,000, get that number, folks, 31,000 different organizations under this umbrella. Now, all those that think that if the media is telling you lies and you can't trust the media and you can only find truth on the alternative media, particularly with crap like the Truther Network, you have no idea the money behind this global operation under the Lucis Trust, Fabian Society, SPR organizations. This thing is massive. They got money out the wazoo. And just as much as they control the mainstream media, folks, they control a lot of the material on YouTube. And what you will notice if you pay attention is there's this crossover between New Ageism and conspiracy theory where it all blends together. And you'll find these hot button topics like Area 51 and Planet X and super soldiers and DNA activations and all this other kind of stuff. And every one of these ideas that these think tanks out of these 31,000 organizations are designed to do are to lure you into the clutches of their conspiracy paranoia. They want you scared to death on one hand, and they want to peddle you metaphysical pie-in-the-sky solutions on the other. They also cater to Christian fear because Fabian Society is a left-wing Marxist organization with global control. George Soros, he works for the fucking Fabian Society, and he's only a small fish. As much as you may think George Soros is something with his billions of dollars, he's just a front man. You don't even know who the real players are behind the scenes on this stuff. But if you pay attention to these conspiracy videos, they rehash the same shit. It doesn't matter if you listen to David Wilcock or Mark Passio or Michael Sarian or Jay Essex or any of the other clan. They all work for the Theosophical Society or the Fabian Society. They're paid disinformation agents. And they're there to sow fear, to make you buy mystical science fiction bullshit and steer you into their mystical belief systems of the divine masculine and feminine and the goddess and, the spaceship rescue, whatever the hell each one of them peddles. And if you learn to pay sharp attention, if you use your powers of observation, you will notice there is only a minor spin between each of these talking heads. And you know who they are because they're the ones that keep showing up on TV like ancient aliens like Graham Hancock and Robert Beall and Greg Braden and all these others. I mean, it's a gigantic disinformation network, folks. And you can tell who they are because they're the ones that show up at the conventions. They're the ones that keep peddling this mystical hornswoggle and ancient aliens and Atlantis and Lemuria. Those are real big, because Atlantis and Lemuria never existed on this fucking planet. But they were real big in theosophy. The idea of Lemuria was created by Ignatius Donnelly. And he was a theosophist. And the Atlantis shit got exploded by Madame Blavatsky and theosophy. But because people want to believe in Planet X, because they want to jump at things that go bump in the night and a little boogeyman under the bed, they keep peddling this shit and you keep buying it. And so you'll go from one of their talking heads to the next and you'll say, well, everybody's saying this, so it must be true. This is what's called psychological manipulation. This is a psychological operation. And because you have not gained the wisdom to see how you are being psychologically manipulated by this shit, that you are being herded, you have no idea. You think, oh, well, these are the truthers. They're telling us the truth. No, they're telling you part of the truth and then slathering it with a lot of bullshit to keep you fearful and helping you look for an escape, praying for Jesus to come back or the spaceships to come save you or ascend to the fifth dimension. And if you pay attention to these people, every one of them, regardless of the truth or shit that they tell you, they take a left turn into mysticism. Pay attention to this, because mysticism is not a solution. It's part of what they call the perennial philosophy. They have been pushing this shit for thousands of years. It comes through Greek philosophy. It came up through Gnosticism and Hermeticism and the mystical traditions and Christianity and Islam. It's all connected, folks, and I revealed every bit of this in Gutting Mysticism. If you want a comprehensive study of the lies of mysticism and everything that's associated with supernatural religions, you need to read that book. And it's not a light read. It's over 500 pages. But if you want to see through this illusion, if you want to see through the psyop and the psychological manipulation, you need to look into these things more comprehensively than what you are. Because all you're being dealt is superficial nonsense by organizations that pay people to spread the nonsense and laud them because, oh, these are the authorities. They're not the authorities. They're paid spokespersons working from the same goddamn script. And if you pay attention to these conspiracy videos, it's all the same shit over and over. It's retread material. But you have to gain the wisdom to see through the scam, to see through the psychological manipulation. Because as long as you buy it and you think that mysticism is going to be the solution to global conspiracy theory, you're being rooked. You're being duped. Another thing to pay attention to with all this conspiracy hype is none of these people ever offer a solution except maybe saying, get your guns and go shoot people. Let's start a revolution. People do not realize how deeply embedded the Marxist left wing is with the spiritual movement. If you look at this modern goddess cult, most of it was spearheaded by a bunch of left-wing feminists. And they are deeply involved in pushing this shit because it suits the left-wing agenda to divide and conquer. And this is what they're doing with our cultures. They're dividing it down to the point of gender, men against women. And the whole transgender agenda, every bit of this stuff is over-amplified Marxist ideologies to sow divisiveness so they can create confusion and pit people against each other so they can come in and pick up the pieces once the shooting stops and the feeding frenzy of Christians against New Agers and goddess worshippers or whatever, because they're trying to start a revolution. You see it. They should see it with Antifa. Antifa was a left-wing communist organization that started in Germany in the 1930s. They're just as left-wing and communist today. Another thing to pay attention to about these truthers is they're all up on their bandstands pillaring Adolf Hitler. And I'm not a Hitler fan. I don't endorse anything Hitler did because he was just a socialist of a different kind. But the fact remains, they all scream about Hitler and the 6 million Jews, and they don't say a word about 100 to 130 million people killed worldwide under communism. You never hear them talk about Joe Stalin or Lenin or any of those other folks. All you hear about is fucking Hitler this and Hitler that. So the left wing that is driving this shit, the mystical arena as well as the conspiracy arena, is not telling you the truth, folks. They're telling you only what they want you to see and only the spooks they want you to jump at. And until you gain the wisdom to see the script that is being sold to you, you're nothing but a pawn in the psychological manipulation game. And the Theosophical Society and the Fabian Society are right dead smack in the middle of this through the psychological manipulation. Just as they control the mainstream media, they control all these fucking talking heads on YouTube. These people are getting paid to lie to you and make you take that turn into leftist land and down the leftist ideology of mysticism. But they cater also to the paranoia and the Christian crowd. Because as long as they can keep the Christians paranoid, then they might spark a goddamn gun revolution, which is what they want. They want a civil war in America because we're the last bastion of places that the socialists don't have control on this planet. So whether you're Christian, whether you're a New Ager, if you're buying this conspiracy shit, you're being manipulated. They're manipulating you through fear and paranoia and propaganda. So if you want to be educated about this, then pay attention to what I'm saying here. A lot of these people that are out there, like the David Wilcoxes and the Greg Bradens that are running the circuit, they're making big bucks. Don't think for a minute they're not getting paid supreme dollars for what they do. Look at David Icke and how he fills auditoriums. Do you think that son of a bitch is living poor? They take care of their own. Now, when I put out stuff like this, people say, well, you know, so-and-so sounds like what you're saying. Well, they may, because history is what history is. And I don't have any altruistic axe to grind other than to see humanity pull its head out of its ass and mature as a species and become something better than psychologically manipulated tools. Gemma has a day job. I work with writing books. We have offered solutions which none of these people do. You point me to one of them that doesn't peddle mysticism as a fucking solution or turning to Jesus as a solution. Those are not solutions. They don't solve anything. So what they are is they're fear mongers. They create all of these fears and add a new buzzword like super soldier every now and then. And they hype the Planet X stuff. They've been hyping that for years and it still hasn't got here. And they hype their false prophecy shit like the event. You know, David Icke predicted something, you know, going to happen 8 a.m. on a specific morning in January this year, and not a goddamn thing happened, and people still hang on his every word because they're too stupid to see through the bullshit. They keep hanging on a mystical promise. You know, just like Christians have been hanging on the return of Jesus for 2,000 years. He ain't coming back. The reviews were so bad the first time they crucified him, didn't you hear? If you want to talk about psyops and genuine conspiracy education, you better listen to this video. Because I'm not going to yarn you with bullshit. I'm not going to steer you down the road of mysticism. We're going to steer you down the road of common sense and pragmatism, which none of these people are presenting. All they want you is afraid. All they want you is psychologically reactive to the fear that they're peddling. Until you can see this, and I ask all of you as you go through these sidebars in YouTube, look at all these talking heads, the J. Essexes and all these others, and look at the titles that they got, and you're going to see the same shit over and over and over again, and it's in the New Age shit too, because it's all part of one gigantic Lucis Trust network, folks. Everything from the spokespersons like Michael Sarian and all the rest, all the way down to the doctrines and ideology of multidimensionality and love and light. It's all the same gigantic network, folks, and they have moved themselves thoroughly into Christianity and Islam. So don't think that there's any part of the population who's not being psychologically manipulated through their control. And as long as you allow yourself to be manipulated in this form, you're nothing but a puppet dancing to their tune on their strings. This is real conspiracy education, folks. This is the real psyop. And they are manipulating you psychologically in so many ways you don't have a clue. And because you buy the shit, you defend the shit, you don't want to hear the truth. You can't drag yourself out of the quicksand of propaganda because you want to believe it. You demand to believe it. And they're counting on that. They want you hooked into the lie. They want you defending the lie because they know if you defend it, they've got you hook, line, and sinker. So I ask everybody listening to this video, give this careful goddamn consideration, because your solutions are not going to be found in left-wing or right-wing propaganda videos. and seeking mysticism or the return of Jesus to fix what's wrong with the world. It's not going to happen. And as long as you are puppets on the psychological strings of these organizations controlled by Lucis Trust, you're nothing but part of the problem, not the solution. The solution is for humanity to transcend this type of psychological program, to see through the ideologies and the mythology, to become something better than what we are, which they do not want us to be. They want us controlled, just like they are controlling us through psychological manipulation and mystical, supernatural beliefs. If you want an education, read Gutting Mysticism. Read The Psychology of Becoming Human, because we're providing solutions that these other people aren't. That's what the distinction is. We may sound similar to what they do, but when it comes up to the solution point, they're sitting there with empty hands, folks. They have no solutions to offer. We do. We're offering solutions. We're offering tools on how to free yourself from this type of psychological corral. And if you want to capitalize on it, great, welcome. If you don't, then live in the psychological manipulation game and be the puppet on the strings. But if you think for a minute that they don't control YouTube like they control the mainstream media, you're only lying to yourself. So for those of you doing the work, stay the course. Don't give up on yourselves.